Hey everyone, Casey here, bringing you another Lake of the Ozarks fishing report. It's the middle of December, and the fishing's starting to get pretty good. We're just about a week away from Christmas here, and these fish are starting to feed up for the winter finally. It's been a tough fall here at Lake of the Ozarks, no matter what you've been fishing for. The crappies, the bass, the white bass, they've all been a little bit slow here until recently. So last couple weeks, it's really started picking up. The crappie are biting extremely well. Going out and catching a limit of fish is no problem. Whether you're throwing a jig or a jerk bait, those are pretty much the two baits that I've been throwing. And the quality of the crappie has been outstanding. We've got some big crappie in the lake this year. The white bass, the hybrids, they're starting to move up shallow, points, backs of coves, just areas where they pull up to feed, flats, things like that. Seeing them on the Garmin live scope or just your side view or down view when you're out there idling. But finding big groups of shad and finding big groups of white bass and hybrids has not been a problem. Getting them to bite some days has been an issue, but there are hundreds of them, if not thousands of them in the backs of some of these coves. So fishing's been really fun. The bass fishing is finally starting to pick up. I've caught some really big fish in the last few weeks. I've been catching some big ones all fall. Unfortunately, I haven't been catching them on the right days. They're never on a tournament. They're always, usually leading up to that tournament. But the bass fishing's been stingy for a lot of the fall, and it's finally starting to pick up. The weights are increasing. The number of bites are increasing. And, some bigger fish are showing up. We've had some big fish showing up throughout the fall, especially at these tournaments for big bass and whatnot. But overall, quality has been down. If you had over 12 pounds at a lot of these tournaments, you were doing well, which normally here at Lake of the Ozarks is not that good. But I've been catching some 5, 6, close to 7 pounders here in the last couple weeks. Done it on a variety of baits. So things are looking up, and there's still a lot of things working. The water temperature here at the lake is right at about 50. You're going to find some upper 40s in some areas, maybe even some low 40s in certain areas, after a cold night or something. But water temperatures hanging around that 50-degree mark, which leaves the door open for a lot of baits and makes the fishing pretty fun. So the fish are really scattered. It doesn't matter if you're fishing for crappie, white bass, or largemouth. There's fish on the main lake, and there's fish all the way in the backs of these coves and pockets and creeks. So you really gotta do a little bit of looking, whether it's on your trolling motor and you're just casting, looking for fish, looking for activity and just eliminating water, or you're sitting behind the console, your nitro or your boat, whatever you're driving, and looking at your electronics. So getting around the bait right now is key. There's big groups of crappie, so if you're looking for them, using your Garmin electronics is really key and efficient, just to see some of these fish. A lot of them are in open water, a lot of them are around brush, but there's schools of hundreds of them. So finding them, if you idle over them or around them, is really not that hard. It takes a little bit of time, but it's not that hard, and it's rewarding when you do find them because you can turn around and catch them a lot of times. But let's start in with what the fish are doing. So we'll talk about crappie a little bit because I've been doing a lot of that, and we were just on the subject, and it's quick and it's easy. So crappies are going to be around your bigger boat docks. They're going to be on points, secondary points, the backs of coves, wherever that bait is. But look at points, look at bigger docks that have a lot of shade around them. Those are always key. Baits that we're using, jerk bait, and then just a little small jig. We're using the Bobby Garland jig, or trying to grab one here, but it's tangled and everything else. But just using a 16th ounce Bobby Garland jig, maybe a grub, and just pendulum that bait back to you. Throw it out there, get it on a tight line, and let it fall past whatever cover you're fishing. So if you're fishing a boat dock, throw it out past the dock, shoot it underneath the dock, and just kind of let it fall back to you through those fish. Same way if you're fishing a brush pile. If the fish are around the brush pile, you're going to throw out there past them, and you're going to let that bait just come back through them. So easy way to fish, easy way to catch them. But brush piles, boat docks, Bobby Garland crappie jig, 16th ounce or an 1/8 ounce. You don't need anything else really. And then a jerkbait, shallow diving jerkbait. Color, they do get color specific, man. These crappies kind of like a bright color right now. I wasn't throwing this exact one the other day, but I was throwing something with quite a bit of color in it and a little bit of flash, and they seem to like it. The crappies, they like it when you let that jerkbait sit there. So the slower, once you get them interested, you know, you can see them kind of scooting up behind it on your live scope when you're fishing. But once you get them interested and get them trailing the bait, if you just let it sit there for a little bit longer than you normally would, you're going to catch more fish. So jerkbait, jig for crappie, points, big docks, brush piles. A lot of fish out there. Have fun. Fill your freezer up. One of my favorite top things to do this time of year. Throw a jerkbait for big crappie. So that bite is happening, and it's super fun. A lot of those fish are in open water too. So look out in front of those boat docks, things like that. Here's that crappie jig I was trying to pick up. 6-pound line. I like the green line. Works really well. You can see it. You can see when you get a bite. So that's always a bonus. Now, bass fishing, white bass fishing, jerkbait, swim baits, Alabama rig. Those are, you know, anything shiny. Rooster tail. Oh gosh, got another rooster tail here. But the rooster tail, when they're up shallow on some points, just something white, something you can cast out there. Anything shiny that resembles a shad. When those white bass are active and they're up a little bit shallower, they're gonna eat, and it's super fun. Alabama rig's good, and anything really flashy. The jerkbait when they're eating well. Again, points, backs of pockets, you'll see a ton of fish on your live scope, and they're constantly moving. There's a lot of them together, and they're constantly moving. That's kind of how I can tell the difference. Usually there's gonna be like a couple bass. When you find the white bass, there's gonna be like a couple hundred of them. So a little bit different look on the live scope. Alabama rig, vary your weights depending on how deep you want that thing to go. A lot of fish shallow, a lot of fish out deeper on structure. So just depending on where you're at, alternate the jig sizes. I got I think a hog farmer, some kind of hog farmer Alabama rig. It's good, it's durable, I like it. 25-pound Bass Pro Shops fluorocarbon line. Got a 6-gill reel on here and a Johnny Morris 7'6" platinum rod. You want a bigger rod, and you want some backbone if you're throwing that fluorocarbon. You know, with braid or something, you can use a softer rod, and you're gonna catch those fish, get them in the boat. But I found if I'm not using something pretty beefy with that Alabama rig on the fluorocarbon, I'm not catching as many. So with the Alabama rig, 3-4 inch swim baits, alternate your colors and stuff, but I've been throwing pretty natural color. Throw it out there and just slow wind it. You know, reel it over the top of the fish, reel it over the top of the cover, whether that's, you know, just the point that you're fishing or the channel bank, or, you know, you're reeling it over the top of a brush pile or next to a boat dock. You know, keep that bait above the fish and keep it going slow and in that strike zone as much as you can, and you're gonna have some success, catch some really big fish. So caught one over 6 on that last week. Probably 12 foot of water or so. Caught a bunch of other keepers to go with it, but that was really the only big one I had on it. There's a lot of other bites going on. So that bite's gonna get better. But right now, we got some super fun stuff going on. Crankbait, spinnerbait, you know, jerkbait, just a lot of swim bait, a lot of things that you're not gonna be able to throw until the water gets warmer. So take advantage of it, get out there and catch some while it's right, for sure. So rock crawler, wigglewort, square bill, flat-sided crankbait. When the water's in the 50s and the fish are active and they're feeding, a crankbait is one of my favorite ways to catch them, no matter where you're at in the country. But here in the Ozarks, a crankbait is the deal. I mean, we throw one a lot, whether you're here, Table Rock, wherever. You can cover a ton of water. We've got a ton of rocky banks, a ton of crawdads, and it makes for just a super efficient presentation where you can move around. The fish are spread out, like I said. So main lake, They're in the backs of creeks. And this is a great way to just get around them. Throw it out there, put the trolling motor down. I got 12-pound Bass Pro Shops, 100% fluorocarbon. I got a 6 3-to-1 gear ratio reel, and you want a rod that's pretty limber, whatever crankbait you're throwing. You want to have a little bit of forgiveness there so you can keep them buttoned up on these treble hooks. This one's a 7-foot medium heavy, actually jerkbait rod from 6 Gill, and it's a great little crankbait rod. So a lot of forgiveness. And then, you know, colors, crawdad colors for sure. Browns, greens, on some of these days, you know, if you get stained water, throw some chartreuse in there. I've noticed the crappies have been liking a little color in the bait, so I'm sure the bass are no different. But get with your crawdad color crankbaits. 12-pound line seems to be absolutely perfect. I throw that on like all my crankbaits. Change out the hooks on some of these, and you're gonna catch more fish for sure. These are Hayabusa TBL 930s. They got the NRB coat on there, and I'm actually gonna be making a post here on my social media where you can get like 30% off of those hooks here before the holidays. But great hook, great bait. Wiggle wart, you know, I'm gonna throw in a little bit shallower water. This rock crawler tends to go a little bit deeper, but a crankbait, and then, you know, your flat sides, all that stuff's gonna work up there a little bit shallower. So there's fish right on the bank, there's fish out a little deeper. So usually I'll have 2 or 3 different kinds of crankbaits tied on that are gonna cover a variety of depths. You know, it's just like going to work with your toolbox. You know, you're gonna have a couple different kinds of screwdrivers, you know, you're gonna have a hammer, you're gonna have all sorts of different tools in that toolbox to do different jobs. And that's what a crankbait is like for me. You know, each one of them runs a different depth. They have a different wobble, different action, vibration. So I keep several of them rigged up to figure out, well, one, for different circumstances. You know, if I'm fishing laydowns, shallow, you know, the fish are pushed up on the bank, square bill for sure. You know, it's going to come through the cover better. It's going to be more efficient. You know, if the fish are backed off that 6-8 foot of water, you know, I'm probably going to try that, gosh, what is this? Rock crawler or wiggle wart. You know, like that wiggle wart excels 4, 6, 7 foot of water. You know, it's going to get down there, root around on the bottom. It does not get snagged very often. And then this one will push out a little deeper, maybe that 8 to 10, gets snagged a lot more, has a good action on it, and catches a ton of fish. So, but you know, each one kind of has its different job. It'll have different colors for different water clarities. And you know, once you dial in to what they want on that crankbait, whether it's the vibration, the color, the size, you're gonna catch a lot more fish, and it can be awesome. You know, I mean, you can be the guy with the crankbait and no one else has got it, you know, or figured it out. And I've seen that happen a lot, you know, where they want a certain crankbait, a certain vibration, maybe a certain speed or retrieve, and super fun bait to dial in and figure out. So crankbaits of all shapes and sizes, you're gonna go out there, catch a lot of fish. That's gonna work really to the low 40s. You know, once it dips into like 42, 43, they're gonna start getting off of it a little bit, but you can catch fish all winter on a crankbait. It's just gonna slow down a little bit, but right now, hot and heavy, and worth throwing for sure. Jerkbait, man, all shapes and sizes of jerkbaits. I like just regular build jerkbait most of the time. I can get that bait to do whatever I want. I got TBL 930s from Hayabusa on there again. Number 6s, you're gonna catch a ton more fish. And alternating the jerkbaits on your, alternating the hooks on your jerkbait is going to make a weight difference in that jerkbait. So it can make it sink, rise, do something a little bit different. I found putting the TBL 930s on there under these cold water conditions, you know, sometimes it changes based on the suspend rate of your bait changes based on the temperature of the water. But most of the time, I found that the TBL 930 and that NRB coat is gonna make my jerkbait just kind of slowly sink, ever so slightly, which helps me get the bait down, helps me control the fall a little bit, but it's perfect. Those fish love that slow falling action, I don't have to play with the weight. I know what that bait's gonna do when I pull it out of the box. And I know when they bite it, I'm probably gonna get them in the boat. So caught one close to 6 pounds the other day on a jerk bait. Thing was right off the bank, up there shallow, feeding on a point. So jerkbait bite, chase the wind, look for the shad, utilize your Garmin live scope or whatever forward-facing sonar you got if you got it. And if you got the live scope, throw out in front of the fish and try to tempt them into biting. Keep that bait above them and see what kind of retrieve they want. If they're in, on points, chasing shad, figure out what depth they're in, what kind of cover they're relating to, whether they're on the bottom, whether they're relating to the rock, brush piles, boat docks, whatever it may be. And just kind of use a slow, steady cadence on that. Experiment with your retrieve a little bit. Sometimes they want it slow, sometimes they want it fast. Like I was saying, the crappies usually want it a lot slower. And the bass kind of did the other day too. They kind of wanted it sitting there on the pause, but the rule of thumb is the colder the water, the slower you work the bait. The warmer the water, the faster retrieve that you want to use on that jerk bait. And variety of colors are working. Anything from this loud, bright color, whatever it is, to something a lot more natural like a pro blue or just some kind of a shad color. Obviously they're eating shad right now. The water is crazy clear still in most areas of the lake. It varies depending on where you're at, but from the lower end down to the 20-30 mile markers, pretty clear. You start getting some more stain once you get there in the past the Grand Glaze, get some more stain in the water. And up there the spinnerbait bites really picking up. Again, channel banks, cover like laydowns, big boulders, chase the wind. So my Ozark Flash, I've got it in the rod box here tied on, always deadly. Chartreuse and white is my favorite. You can get creative, get a bunch of different colors going, play with your blade schemes, blade combinations, but 1/2 ounce Ozark Flash, white and chartreuse, my all-time favorite. It's gonna work shallow, dirty water, it's gonna work in clear, deep water, and it's gonna put fish in your boat no matter what lake you are in the country. I've experienced it and seen it. It's an awesome bait and it's very unique and it's worth going out and getting. You need one in your tackle box, especially if you're here in the Ozarks, man. They bite it. But that window is closing. They're gonna start getting off of that spinnerbait here in the next few weeks if we get in those real low 40s. But this is a 3/4. I like the 3/4, deeper banks, steeper banks, that drop off real sharp. Heavy wind, when I'm wanting to get it down there, that's what I'm using. When I'm throwing behind boat docks, when I'm fishing up shallow, covering water, using a little bit faster retrieve, I'm gonna use the 1/2 ounce. That's kind of my go-to standard bait this time of year, anytime I'm throwing a spinner bait. So white and chartreuse, white, something kind of clear, natural, can't go wrong there. But I really do like the painted blades all the time. All the time, pretty much. I've found that's the ticket, man. They like that painted blade, whether it's clear water, dirty water. They like that flash with that muted painted blade look as well. It's just hard to beat, man. Hard to beat. Caught them everywhere from Florida to New York on it. And then a jig, little finesse jig, or you got my full size Trophy Bass Company Pro jig. This is a 3/4. I believe this is a 7/16. Man, it looks like more like a 3/8. Small craw trailers, something with not a ton of action is usually best when it's cold. These two colors right here, more of a green pumpkin and then a brown, they're gonna get the job done for you all winter long. I do like a black and blue in the winter. I like it a lot. Cloudy days, I usually, since the water's so clear, I'll probably throw like a green pumpkin trailer on it. But basically those 3 jig colors are gonna work for you everywhere, all the time, but they're working here. And experiment with the size of the jig. You can experiment with trailers, everything else, but shallow water, slower jig. They like a little bit slower fall in the wintertime, but if I'm trying to maintain bottom contact and fish deep, I'm gonna use a bait that I can feel down there and that's gonna get to the bottom. So, let's say they're in 30 foot, I'm gonna throw that 3/4 ounce jig so I can get it down there on the bottom in 30 foot of water. Now, the bites are gonna be lighter this time of year. You're not gonna feel a lot of these bites. The fish are gonna be a little bit more finicky. The finesse jig, or even just taking this jig right here and cutting the skirt off. I'll do it for you and just show you real quick. But just give it a finesse cut. I'll kind of hold back the bottom layer of this skirt. I'll kind of grab the jig here, and then I'll turn it over like this, grab my scissors, and simply cut it to give it that, kind of finesse look. And you can cut it even shorter if you want. But you want a small profile jig this time of year, and an easy meal from them, small trailer, and experiment with your sizes. That 3/8 is a good 3/8 half ounce is a good size to fish a variety of depths. A little bit lighter line this time of year too, so you can feel those bites, especially on that finesse jig. 14 to 20 pound Bass Pro Shops fluorocarbon will get the job done for you. But overall, fishing at the lake here is getting good. I've got some guide trips available. I'm trying to sell this boat I'm sitting in right now. So if you're in the market for a boat, give me a call. This one's awesome. It's been great. Runs perfect and well taken care of. So, but I'm getting my new nitro in a week or two, and guide trip, I'm gonna start fishing here in February. So take advantage of the good weather we've got and take advantage of the good fishing, and let's go out and catch some of these bass here at Lake of the Ozarks. So I've got plenty of availability, whether you wanna go bass fishing or crappie fishing, but come February, that availability is gonna get a lot more scarce, and as I get on the road here and start traveling. But I'll drop a link to some of my sponsors. We got some great deals at Bass Pro Shops. Six Gill Fishing has got some great deals going on. Just a lot of closeouts and 50% offs. And then Hayabusa hooks. I'll be making a post later on about these TBL 930s. Best treble hook you can get, and they're gonna be on sale, and I'm gonna drop a code where you can use my code and save 30% on that. So, but overall, fishing's great. I've got guide trips available. I've got a boat available for you if you want to purchase that, and fishing's good. So until next time, good luck out there, and I hope you guys catch a big one.